All right, well, welcome. This is the first time I'm recording video where I'm here, and I'm here with Blair Thielemier, an author who wrote How to Build a Pharmacy Consulting Business, Your Prescription for Finding Freedom and Loving Your Career. And the reason that I asked her to be on is that I never really get to talk to other authors. There's a little bit of isolation that kind of comes along with being an entrepreneur sometimes and being an author. So I asked her to come on, tell us how she finally got her book done, and then give us some tips about marketing, especially how you get your book out there. So the two things any author wants: how do I finish my book, and how do I get people to read it? So welcome, Blair. I'm excited to have you on. So let's just get started with the first thing is, how did you finally get the book done? Everybody wants to write a book. How did you get to the finish line?
Well, thank you for having me on today. The book was definitely a labor of love. So the way that I began writing the book was I created an outline of what I wanted to say, what I wanted to people to know about me and take away from the consulting business that I had created. So first thing I did was start with an outline. Then I recorded videos just like this and basically told my story over a slideshow. So I took that outline, I created a slideshow from it, then I told my story using that slideshow.
Okay.
I then took the audio, sent it to, I can't remember, SpeechPad, I think is the one I used, is a transcription service.
Okay.
So then I had everything transcribed into text. I got the text back and I went through the text line by line and just made sure that it didn't sound too conversational. I cleaned it up a little bit.
Okay.
And then hired an editor, hired a formatter, and the rest is history.
Okay, so I did something similar where I have an English major, so I don't mind writing, but a lot of people make the mistake of saying, I need to write a book, when what we really need to do is we need to create a book. And it sounds like you created a book within. You had a bit of a time frame issue. Can you talk about why your time frame was so narrow to get this book done, to get things rolling with your business? You talk about it in the first part of your book, the aha moment.
Yes. So my aha moment was, I was working as a clinical pharmacist. This was in early 2014, and I was a clinical pharmacist at a local hospital. I loved my job, but then I got the news that the small hospital I was working for is a rural hospital. They just didn't have the budget to keep 2 full-time pharmacists. So I actually got cut back to PRN status, lost all my benefits, and I happened to be 6 months pregnant at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so heart attack moment there. I really didn't know what I, was going to do. Primary breadwinner of the family. We're definitely dependent on my income. So I was scrambling to get out and get as many hours pieced together as I could. So what I did was I put my name out here in Arkansas and Missouri to do like relief services. So a lot of my friends here locally are independent pharmacy owners, and they just started offering me shifts whenever they needed a vacation day or needed some time off.
Okay.
So that's how my consulting business started. Was they were like, well, you're a clinical pharmacist. You know a lot more about,
Sure.
All this stuff than I do. Will you do our MTM cases?
Okay.
And so, I guess so. So
Yeah.
I'd never done it before. I'd gone from hospital to retail MTM.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, I'm scared to death of billing Medicare. But what I started doing was just trying to learn everything I could about MTM. So I was watching all these webinars and reading white papers and trying to really educate myself on the quality payment system and everything there is to know about MTM. So in doing that, I just absolutely fell in love with these services. And I thought, this is what I want to do. I don't want to go back to, working full time, whether it's in a community pharmacy or in hospital. Okay. I want to be sitting with these patients and helping them with their MTM. So I started trying to figure out how to do that. Uh-huh. And I could not figure it out. Okay. Like at one point, I remember Googling like how to build a pharmacy consultant. Okay. Which is the title of my book now. Right. So if you Google that, now you'll see my book. But I didn't know where to start. And I didn't feel that I knew enough about entrepreneurship that, I could be a legitimate business owner. Sure. So, I even considered like, should I go get an MBA? Mm-hmm. What's the first step that an entrepreneur needs to do to start a consulting business? So I kind of figured it out on my own and through lots of trial and error, but it was something that I really enjoyed. And then I was sharing this information on my blog and on LinkedIn, and then pharmacists just started contacting me about, how can I do this too? And that's when I kind of thought, maybe I should look further into this. So around the same time, end of 2015, I was offered a job as the director of pharmacy at another local hospital. Okay. And, like I said, it would have been my dream job had they offered it to me, just before I got into entrepreneurship. Sure. But at this point, I was too deep. I had got a taste of, the idea of flexibility and the idea of, no cap on your salary and all the cool things about owning your own business. And I turned it down, and what I focused on instead was my coaching and consulting business. And so from that, I hired a professional business coach to help me, create the website, create an e-course.
Can I just stop you there? You just told me that you're a coach and you hired a coach.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, but I think most people think that coaches are just born that way. No. Okay, so go ahead and continue. I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was just kind of one of those things where, wait a minute, the coach hired a coach. So you believe in coaching, and then you believe in having a coach as well.
Absolutely. She's still my coach. I just signed up with her with a mastermind. We do twice monthly meetings, and then with the mastermind, and then I meet with her once a month just to kind of, keep me accountable. And she's helping me set goals in my business. She's helping me, make plans for future offerings and things in my business as well. And, I think as a coach, if I'm telling people that they, need to invest in themselves, they need to invest in their business, and they need to have someone to help them be accountable and support them, then I need to put my money where my mouth is. And sure. I do the same thing for myself. So. Okay.
Well, I guess, tell me a little bit about the marketing strategies that you've used, because the first thing people want to know after they hear you've written a book is, how did you write it? How did you get to the finish line? And it sounds like what you did was, it wasn't about writing a book. It was about creating a book, employing the people that can help you there. Now, what about marketing? So someone's got their book, they've put it up on Kindle, maybe KDP, direct publishing. 3 days later, it's up there, and now they see that they are the 2 millionth, that they've got a ranking of 2 million. How do you up that ranking a little bit?
Okay, so what I did, and I listened to a podcast, it's Shelley Hitz's Author Audience podcast. Okay. And it was very helpful for me to figure out how I wanted to figure out which categories to place myself in. So what she recommends is, as you're uploading your stuff to KDP for the very
Mm-hmm.
first time, you have to choose categories.
Yep.
So in the main category, I wanted to, of course, rank, like you said, 2 millionth in the entrepreneur, book category.
Right.
But then I chose for my second category a very, very specific niche category, which was practice management and reimbursement.
Get out. I didn't know that was a category. So, okay. Well, you know more than I do.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm ranking number one now. Me and some other, I guess, MDs are, that do like practice management stuff, are usually duking it out for the number one spot. But
I have that same problem where I actually rank it's nursing, pharmacology, ebook, and then I'll duke it out with these other 4 or 5 ebooks, and then we just kind of trade spots. And I was like, oh, I got bestseller, because you get a little banner, and more people are driven to your book, and then you're like, oh no, I'm number 2, I lost my banner. So I understand the importance of ranking, and in terms of marketing and getting it out there, many people will tell their family about it, they'll tell their friends about it, but that's where it stops.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go past the friends and family type thing?
It's, it's something that it's in every single one of my emails. It's on my signature line of my email. It says Blair Thielemier, author of How to Build a Pharmacy Consulting Business. So every email it goes out to, I don't care if it's, an email to my grandmother, it's on the bottom of my emails.
Okay.
It's on my Facebook page. It's on my LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can put your publications on there, which most people put like, journal articles or something. But I put my book on there. So you can also, on your Facebook, your personal Facebook profile page, you can put life events. And what I did was I created a life event whenever my book went on sale. And so it actually attracted quite a few pharmacists, that are my friends on Facebook, that they would see that life event. So, ongoing marketing, just figuring out ways that you can automate the process or place it where people will see it. So whether it's a signature, on your emails, or placing it in a prominent position on your website. I think that, making sure it's top of mind and making sure it's easy to find for people is really key.
Okay. When you talk about having a book and you're marketing and you're sending it out there, but now you're working with other clients. So you didn't mention the name of your coach, and that's fine. But what I'm asking is how do you have people refer you? When somebody refers you, how do you want them to refer you? How do you, when I refer you, I say, oh, Blair's the MTM person. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't really encompass everything, but that's the way I refer you. How do you prefer people refer you, or how would you prefer people refer you?
I would like to be just known as the person who, if you have a business question about pharmacy that, you feel like you can come to, and I may not know the answer, but I can help direct you to someone who does. So I have friends that consult for compounding pharmacies. I have friends that consult for independent pharmacy owners. And I've really tried to build that network so that I can help pharmacists increase their business acumen as well. So the project I'm working on right now is putting together a series of interviews of pharmacy leaders and pharmacists who have created innovative business models. And I'm interviewing them and putting everything together in a kind of virtual pharmacy summit that will launch this April.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I guess when I think of consulting and I think of becoming a consultant, I have this picture of somebody walking into an independent pharmacy and saying, hey, I have this clinical ability. Do you need my services? And obviously that's not the way things go. But I think one of the things people are most scared about is reaching out and offering and then showing that they can do the job and they're worth the money. And how do they even bill for it? So let's pretend I said all of a sudden I want to be an MTM clinical consultant. How do I approach a pharmacy? How do you set up a billing? And is it a regular billing? Is it a monthly thing? Is it 60-day, 90-day? How do all these things come together?
Okay, so if you just came to me and said, I want to start a consulting business, I would be like, okay, there's a lot of different settings. You could be working as a clinical pharmacist in a community pharmacy, or in a physician's office, or in a hospital-based outpatient clinic. Like, where should we identify your target market to start with?
Okay.
So say it's community pharmacy. The community pharmacists, they are, independent pharmacy owners are definitely the ones that I would recommend starting with. They need the most help. And I would go in, I would introduce myself. I would tell them, I've been doing MTM for the past 2.5 years. I manage other pharmacies' MTM programs. I make sure that their adherence rates are where they need to be. I'm monitoring the equip scores every single month and making sure your metrics are where they should be. I can train your staff and train your technicians to make these MTM calls for you, and really make sure that everyone on staff has a hand in MTM. I think that too many times they're like, oh, the pharmacist has to do all the MTM. Well, no, you have to do the clinical part of it. If you're sitting down and doing a comprehensive medication review, of course you have to do that, but calling to make the appointment for the review, calling to remind them to bring all of their medications to the appointment, following up with them, following up with the doctor and the nurse on the recommended changes. Those are all things that I can teach your staff how to do and create efficient workflow processes that can take this huge, MTM thing off your shoulders and really make it much more bite-sized and much more manageable and sustainable. So the way I would, and I recommend for people that want to start consulting, is go in and, figure out how many Medicare patients do you have that are eligible for CMRs or MTM, adherence calls and things like that. And then figure out how much time it's going to take you. So say you maybe have 100 patients that are eligible for CMR. You say, I'm going to spend 2 to 4 hours a week. You pay me that on a retainer. That's a minimum. And say I charge $75 an hour for that retainer. So $75 times 4 hours a week. And then if I come into your pharmacy and do face-to-face CMRs or do trainings with your staff, do anything above that 4 hours a week, then I'll tack it on to your invoice at the end of the month. So then at the end of the month, I will send an invoice for however many hours I worked times whatever my rate is, and then that's how they'll pay me. They'll keep all the reimbursement that I do. I don't contract directly with any platforms or insurance companies or anything like that. I let them keep the reimbursement. I'm helping them with their processes and them with their star ratings and quality measures, and then they're just paying me just like a regular employee.
Okay, so it sounds like you've set up a system that makes it really easy for someone to do this. Do you have a success story from one of your clients? You don't have to tell us the name, but of a client that you took from one place and got them to where they wanted to be in terms of their goals?
Absolutely. One of the first pharmacists I started working with, she was actually in my beta group, the first group that went through the e-course last January. And she was already doing MTM for one pharmacy. She had retired after 20 years as a pharmacy manager. So she had a very extensive network of pharmacists in her area.
Okay. Yeah.
She said she had a lot of those pharmacists as students or, interns working under her. So,
yeah.
she already had kind of a good end, but she ended up, I think she called 8 pharmacies in a week, and 5 of them said yes immediately. And then 3 more signed on within, the next month or 2. And by the time she moved from her practice to actually what she's doing now, which is speaking and training other pharmacists for a wholesaler, she had 11 pharmacies she was working with. So.
And so you actually can create a saleable practice in many ways.
Oh, yeah.
Or a book of business that you can pass on. Okay. Well, I don't want to keep this video too long. I guess I just have one final question, which is if you have someone who has this kind of entrepreneurial desire, but they've got the full-time job right now, how do you make the transition? Your transition was made easy for you. Okay, I take that back. Your transition was made clear for you by you. Yeah, you have a job, you don't have a job. But now, let's say somebody says, all right, well, I'm working 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week. I'm so tired at the end of the day. I've got my kids. I've got my husband that acts like a kid. I've got all of these things going on. How do I fit in? How do I start with just a couple hours? And I think one easy way would be to read your book. But what's the first step you would recommend?
So, having time to work on your business is very, very important. You do not have to invest that much money to start a business like this, but you do have to invest a little bit of time and, start creating relationships and start reaching out to people, talking about your ideas and your services. So some of the pharmacists that have been successful that have gone through my program in the past have found ways to find extra time in their schedule, whether they're cutting back to, just say 4 days a week instead of 5 or 6 or 7.
Sure. Right.
Cutting back, or even working 3 12-hour shifts, instead of 8-hour shifts or something like that, so that they can have at least 1 day a week, just a few hours a week that they could spend making calls or going and visiting pharmacies in person to introduce themselves. I tell people, don't start with like, I need to have 9 pharmacies. That's a full-time gig. And I'm going to quit my job and then I'm going to go out and find these pharmacies. I'm like, no, please don't quit your job. Start with 1 pharmacy.
Sure.
If you like it and if you want to continue building that business, then keep adding business and cutting back, in your real job.
Okay. No, your job, that I think the toughest thing was the jump when I got to 32 hours. That was easy. But once you say I'm no longer depending on a full-time job for health insurance, I feel like that's a huge leap. Right. And did you make that leap, or you had to make that leap?
Well, luckily my husband carries me on his health insurance.
Okay.
I did check out what it would look like to buy health insurance on the open market. And really, from what we're paying his employer for health insurance to what I could buy it on the open market really wasn't that much different.
Okay.
It was a couple $100s a month, but it wasn't enough difference to make me go back to a job that I didn't absolutely love. And, I'm not against full-time employment. Like I said, if the perfect job came along, maybe I would consider, going back to, a real job, being employed. Yeah. But for now, I enjoy being unemployed.
Okay. The Unemployed Entrepreneur. It's like your next book. All right. Exactly. Well, thanks, Blair, very much for being on. And hopefully we'll get to see, maybe we'll check in with you after April to see how the event went. And if you're looking for her book, you can get it on Amazon free the next 4 days. Put that on the show, not the show notes, but in the annotation. And then I know you can get it on Amazon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read the book for free. All right. Well, thanks very much, Blair.
Thank you.